to take that car, are you? I was going to say you'd be there in no time. Mr. Massey has been a lifelong lover of the race. And when he was only 6 years old, his uncle, I believe, was it your uncle?
Yes, ma'am.
Took him to the races, and that was it. The love affair began. And it's been going on now for about, well, at the Senoia Raceway for 49 years.
1969.
1969. And there's so much. Bill and I spent a great hour and a half talking about him. I want to do a piece for us so that we can get, he's going to give us some great information, but it's really exciting that we have Clint here, because Clint he's driven all over this country and Australia. This is big. This is dirt track racing, and it is big, and they have big prizes, and they do great stuff. Just a couple of weeks ago, April the 21st, it was a race for autism, and I don't know how much money you all raised, but I know it was great.
Yes, they were part of the gate proceeds. They were very excited and very happy.
I'm sure. They have as many as 2,500 and 3,000 people at these races, so get there early. It opens like at 7. People start arriving at 2. But this guy, he's going to talk about that love of racing and what it's meant to him, and then, of course, to Clint. Now, my daddy was a shade tree mechanic, and my brother is too, and I've always wanted to get my head under the hood too. And I think we have a young woman here who is the next generation of racers. So, you know, it's just, it is something that we forget that it's in our backyard. And it's just a wonderful thing. Come on, Bill, you tell us about that. Oh, I want to be sure too that you all get, these are the schedules for this year, for what's left of this season.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want to be sure that everybody gets one of these, okay?
First of all, I want to tell you all that we're very privileged to be here tonight. Appreciate you guys inviting us down. My involvement with Senoia Raceway goes back to 1969 from the original founder. Some of the people in here may know Mr. Pollard, Clint Pollard. His son, Sonny is still in business here and actually lives in the house that his dad lived in when he was growing up as a boy. And started coming down to the track in 1969. My uncle owned 2 race cars at that time. We started coming, and a couple of years later, my uncle bought a racetrack in Douglasville, Georgia, and I started officiating. So I officiated racing for 25 years also. Now I've got a grandson and a son racing. My grandson, Mason Massey, marked 62 years in our family that somebody's raced consecutive years. That's great. And Clint's been a great help for him. He's been kind of a great inspiration for my grandson. Taught him a lot of things. He started out driving a little quarter midget cars when he was like 5 years old. And my son's been out of racing for about 13 or 14 years due to his daughters playing college softball, and his business, he's in the towing business, but this year he started back racing, and fortunately several weeks ago he won his race. That was a very nice start for him. But we're trying to get the community involved with the track a lot. We see a lot of people from the community that want to see more. We have a lot of outings over there for Georgia, like Georgia Special Olympics and autism, Race for Autism. We have Easter egg hunts for all the children. And we have monster truck races, monster truck shows, waterless boat races, if you've never seen one of those. It's quite exciting. It turns into a demolition derby when all the boats are fired. But we appreciate, like I said, you guys inviting us down. We'd like to see you all there on Saturday nights. We'll be off this Saturday, but next Saturday we have a Southern All-Star traveling series coming in that Clint will be participating in also. And I think at this time I'm going to turn it over to Clint, let him tell you all about his history a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Sit down over there, Bill.
Thank you. Well, I've known him all my life because he's a lot older than me, but funny story about him, he didn't tell, but he's actually Little Mays. His dad was Big Mays. And now when he was gone out of racing around here for a few years, and then would come back when they repurchased the racetrack over here, I said, hey Mays, and that was no longer Mays. That was now his son's called Mays that promotes the racetrack. He's back to call Bill, and that confuses me every time, so he's still just Mays to me. And most all the other veterans to the racetrack, he's still a little Mays. But I've done this all my whole life. We've been in the Senoia area back when Senoia was dirt way back 35 years ago, probably 40, before it went asphalt pavement for a while. I haven't raced there when it was pavement, but my dad was raced the first race I guess they had at Senoia Raceway back in '69. So he had just come over from. He's more of a historian than probably me because he's been around so much longer in the early days of racing, and he raced with Don Garlicks and Richard Petty and all back when they was actually drag racers and not in Cup stuff like that. So he used to drive 4 Ford with a top fuel dragster at that time. Not like today's top fuel dragsters, they were pretty awesome. But when I came up, I started racing. Well, I went to work at the shop, and I could actually build a complete race car, I think, at 12 years old. So that's all I'd ever done, with the shop being right there in the backyard. That's what Roscoe Smith and the place that Ed Howe was up in Michigan, the Indiana area. So Ed was, them two was the 2 car builders in the United States way back then. And Dad was mainly building dirt cars, and Ed was mainly building asphalt stuff. And he done a lot of dirt racing too. But a lot of people didn't know that, but he's been pavement most of the time. So anyway, that's just what I was meant to do, I guess. So I took on my dad's number. That's his car 44 and his checkered roof. He was gold and black back then, and really aluminum now comes already painted and stuff like that. So we went away from the gold color and just went back to, my favorite color was always blue, so I went white and blue. But many years ago, I've had several colors over the years, but this is my main one I've always stuck with. But we started racing, I started at 15, and that was like super young then, not now. Y'all may see Tyler Reddick racing on Saturdays and Sundays on TV now. I took him to his first test with a big car. He runs some sprint stuff when he was 12. And he was running World of Outlaws at 13. Wow. And we just kept him up and going, and he went on to other teams, and then finally moved out of dirt and went on to where he's headed to NASCAR now with what he's doing. But drivers like that is what we've helped over the years, and there's probably 100 of them along the way that we've helped and tutored. And I'm into that more now than I ever have been. I spent 10 years on the World Outlaw Tour, which goes as far out as Wyoming and up into Canada, Saskatchewan, and all the way back over to Quebec, I think it is, area. Yeah. The French talking side. Yeah. It's funny, you cross county lines here, and our accent changes a little bit. You cross county lines up there, and the language changes. And I mean, changes, signs, everything. It's pretty strange, but we go into that part of the country and race, and you hear the announcer up there, and we all just laughing, because the only time we hear the announcer, he just be saying stuff we don't understand, and I said, Clint Smith. That would be in English, so, but man, they do everything great up there. We'd come in through the grandstand, walking down with spotlights on us and stuff like that, kind of like a wrestling match deal coming in. They just really made it big up there, but that was a great part of my life, racing around the country and doing stuff like that. But then Senoia turned back to dirt, and I had a few customers wanting to work on cars, and this is 5 years previous to the Masseys taking over the racetrack. And I've always kind of done car work and built cars along, but on the road racing, you don't have time for that. You just got to concentrate on your own stuff, and we'd be gone over 200 days a year racing, and it just was just in and back out, in and back out. So it was nice to stay back at home. But in 2014, when that was my last World Outlaw Tour, they opened the track in 15. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I decided at that point it was time for me to come back around the house. So we just didn't know how we was going to do, and how the business was going to kind of do, and how much customers would get rounded up. And then And actually, for the first year, if you look at Facebook and anything, I'm a dead enemy of the world here because I'm picking on the local people and coming in with a big truck and trailer. And I guess that lasted about a year.
Yeah.
And we won a lot of races. And then my daughter and my wife, they just delete people on Facebook. Don't pay it no attention, you know, they don't know us, you know. So, and really I didn't know a lot of local racers because I never was at local racing because I was always on the road. So then we decided in 15 to settle down and race that year. And by the end of the year, everybody kind of got to know me a little bit. And then by 16, they changed the track surface because the dust was a problem for the neighbors and everything. And they come out with the greatest surface probably in the United States as far as a racetrack. And they write about it top 10 in the United States, everything. So the racetrack became real good and our car business picked up considerably, which my cars I was working on won all the races, a bunch of them. And by the next year, everybody seen I was there to help them, but now everybody's for me. If I turn right around, now you can never hear me nothing about bad about me. It was funny how that kind of changed. After the first year being back.
Positive now.
Everything's positive, or you don't see nothing, you know, it's just, I'm not interested in what they're talking about me. But, so, you know, then racing became it's more of a business now, and you'll see all my stuff sits in trailers or under a cover in the yard, and about an hour before race time, we load everything up and haul it up at the racetrack, and we still do okay, but I'm fortunate that I got this racetrack right here in this area, thanks to Mr. Hence Pollard and Sonny Pollard and Bubba Pollard, which Bubba needs to come up here to one of these meetings, and so does Sonny.
Yeah.
But Pollards are big in the area. Y'all see all the trash cans in the area. Everything's got Pollard on them. But Bubba's probably one of the best short track asphalt racers in the country. He is strong, and he just come back from Wisconsin this week. So as far as an asphalt or pavement racer, you got one of the best in the country 2 miles up the road. So. Just remember, he's right here close too. If y'all see him in a paper or something, y'all are his neighbors, so he's right here with you too. So, but you know, then we got 2018 here, and my daughter and my longtime crew chief, I backed out just a little bit. She started dating a guy they were doing in school. But I needed a crew guy one night. He wasn't into racing or nothing. He was all about softball and baseball and the buddies and all that, but he wasn't like 17, 18 probably. So I said, hey, I gotta have some help tonight by myself. Well, I go. He knew nothing. I trained him along, and then after about 6 months, he became the crew chief, and everybody that worked and was gone. He learned so fast. And he worked for me for the next 4 or 5 years, 5, 6 years, I guess. And then Saturday night, he proposed to her in front of the grandstand.
He was down on bended knee.
Yeah, he was. That was neat.
It's pretty nice because she's actually works at the racetrack for the whole time we've all been there pretty much. She's a scorekeeper up there and does all the lineups and calls everything out. And when I come by my hand up in the air, it's her I'm talking to. So. And she'll text her mom, you get him to go on, you know, so don't do that. But it's unfortunate y'all recognizing the racing that's been in the area. And we ride by this place every day. And when y'all moved it here, moved everything and redone it and all, I watched it every day. It seemed like the original porch y'all was talking about took forever to get built. We were watching this. I'm aboard today, I think. So it was a long time, but it was pretty neat seeing this place built, and I'm seeing cars built, and everybody here is welcome to stop by. My house and shop is in the front yard there, but we just kind of low key, nobody knows we're there, and we just do some pretty good work under it. We don't have windows and nothing, we just in there quiet, but you walk inside and I show you around and you'll see how stuff's built, still by hand, and it's pretty cool, and we look forward to seeing y'all at the races. And if y'all want to come down and check out, I got about 85-foot tractor trailer with a bin in the middle. Y'all welcome to come take a tour through it and see how we race and just see the inside and out. I'll be glad to take everybody through there. And just if you're not interested in racing, I'll just give you some knowledge about it anyway. And then you can choose, and maybe let's do more to this, but then come check it out. It is, if people don't like racing, they go one time, they like racing.
Yeah.
If you like racing, you go over here, you'll love racing. So it's, and it, you know, it does make a little bit of noise on Saturday nights, but you know, it's all done early, and there's no dust anymore, and it's just a little bit of trash thrown out, but we try to pick it up. I stop and pick up a piece of trash. It might not be from the racetrack. Going or coming on Mondays or something, I see a piece. I said, let me pick that up. Somebody may say something. That's the Facebook stuff I see now. Is they throwing trash on Standing Rock Road. I said, well, that might have been there before the race even happened. So it's pretty cool. But y'all come over and check us out, and come by the shop and come to the racetrack. I'll be glad to show you around and let you check it out. Sit in the car. She just did. She just did. So
One thing I want to add too is Clint's got a radio show every week you guys ought to tune into, 98.1.
It's called a short track racing show. I'm on 98.1 every Tuesday night from 8 to 10. And we have mostly local guests. If y'all want to put on an event over here sometime, I think you talked about them getting involved with the race and doing some fundraising stuff. We can have one of y'all over, be in the station with me and talk about racing and talk about the fundraisers, what you got going on here. May help generate some traffic and stuff. So, but I do it every Tuesday night. We got mostly local. We got people I've had people from Australia on, cause it's on iHeartRadio, which covers the world. So you can listen anywhere, no matter if you got service or not. So
Listen on your cell phone to it.
yeah, cell phone. And you can pull up if you follow all the racing on Sundays. All the racing features are replayed, so you can check out kind of what went on and kind of the highlights of the night. It's broadcast on Jennifer Dirt Live. I think it's the best place to look at that. You got to pay attention. Watch the races, and that's you check it out. It's a real fun family atmosphere, and a lot of people come every week. So we got one that she's talking about. She just turned 15. We had a 15-year-old. She was 14. Win 3 weeks ago over there. So as a girl, and that was the guys beat her up a bit this past week. But
She still finished fifth though.
she come back from reading the fifth.
She came back from the back and won a fifth. Yeah.
Great job. But I'll be glad to show y'all around or answer any questions or whatever you got going on. Just feel free to ask, and have a good night.
Thank you. You have to go. You have to leave.
No, I'm good.
Okay, you don't. Yeah, we will. I got pictures. I want you to tell us now, because some of us are real ignorant. Tell us about that, about a race. I mean, you know, what's happening here? You said that track is how big?
The track's a little bit less than 3/8, and like Clint was saying, we put special clay on there. It's called gumbo. It came out of a kaolin mine south of Macon. And it was a big decision for us because the first year we were here, we put all new red clay on there and spent a lot of money, but it was dusty. No matter how much water we put out there and packed it, it was still dusty. So in the off season, my son and I got together with our partner, Doug Stevens. We said, hey, we can't go back next year like we did. So we went out and searched around, and Doug actually found this clay, and we had a soil scientist to check it all out for us. And he said, man, that's some great stuff. It's really amazing. It's gray, as you all can see in this picture right here. That's a lineup a few weeks ago of a traveling series we had, and it looks like asphalt.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, when you're racing, it almost looks like asphalt. Yeah.
But it makes multi-grooves for the racers that they love. Plus it's a lot less wear and tear on their motors, tires. That's what we're trying to do, to save them money too, because we can't have races without these guys. Clint's a great help for us here. He promotes the track very well for us, and we're close friends. And his daddy's a great man. His daddy's in the National Dirt Track Hall of Fame. And I'm sure Clint's goal is to be there one day with his dad. And
We're originally from Spalding County, so my dad and myself is both in the Spalding County Sports Hall of Fame, so it's pretty cool to be localized over there also.
So how many cars do you normally, and you have a series of races each?
yes, ma'am. Every week almost, except we take a few weeks off. Like we'll be off this weekend after that weekend we had last weekend, and we'll be back next weekend.
And now different kinds of cars race?
Yes, ma'am. We got several classes there. We got hobbies, bombers, late model sportsmen, legends sometimes, mini stocks, hot shots, limited late model and super late models. That's what Clint has there. They're about 900 horsepower, 2,300 pounds.
Oh, goodness.
But we averaged last year 115 cars per race.
That's great. Good
The
job.
last race we had there was called the Showdown at Senoia, and we had 143 cars.
Oh, my goodness.
I never really been on what he's saying, talk about different classes of cars, which he named off names y'all probably never even have no clue what he's talking about. But like a hot shot is like $500 car that somebody go get the junkyard. It's front wheel drive usually. And they put a roll cage in it and a seat, and they come out and have a good time and race. That's usually the last thing that happens during the night. Hot shots are gonna last because the tires are skinny. They tear the track up a little bit, but they have a good time. It's just a straight, pretty much street vehicle. And then you got the Bombers is a more of a street car that they made. Some of them small tires, some of the bigger tires. They got narrow wheels, steel wheels, and it looks like your street car or something. And they race and they do their deal. And then they got what they call a hobby class, which is third class up. They're more of a, looks similar to ours, but they got on a stock nose piece. It ain't sloped like mine is out there. And it's got a 602 crate motor, which is a GM crate motor. It's just 602 is the part number. That's where it gets its name from. And this pretty much standard shocks. That's $100 a piece. Wheels, steel, and they race their races. They all run 15 to 20 laps. And you got the mini stockers, which is called a KSMA, right?
That's correct.
When they're in town, they got like 10 grand in just their motors, with their 4-cylinder motors, and they make a lot of racket. And
Sound like super bumblebees.
they put on a good show when they're in town, and they look a little bitty one of my cars, and they make the car look kind of like a super late model, except for just you tell it's a 4-cylinder, got 13-inch wheels and tires on it, so it's kind of small. And then this next class up is pretty much what, like she starts racing, that's what she'll be in. They call it a Charger class. And what that is a 602 with a super late model type car, but it's got a small motor that makes about 400 horsepower. And they got a shock rule and a motor rule, and then they get to race and get to feel what this car is going to feel like, and it helps them grow into what they call a late model sportsman, which is the exact same car except they've won races and experienced more. And this sportsman's a rookie type deal, and the next class up is the one you're going to race in and try to win. It's called late model sportsman. And then they got the next class up is called crate late model, which is one of the most popular race cars in the South now because of the cost of the motor. This motor in this car here is around $40,000. The motor, a crate motor is about, you can get a complete crate motor for about $7,500. And it'll race 2 or 3 years usually. This one's gonna race 1,200 laps and got to be built again. So this is really not a good local car to run. But the crate class is gonna have 15 to 20 cars a week, and I've got one, and because they run a lot of big races with this car. And then the next class up is called late model limited sportsman, and it's exactly like the other 2 car classes, super and crate, except it's got a steel 358 motor. Kind of like a street motor, but it's got about 600 horsepower, and it's just a class that's been around, and you wonder why it ain't left, but it's still here because so many people's got these motors because they used to be a super late model motor back in the day, and everybody just keeps that class going. And they also run a 525 GM crate motor, which is all aluminum in that particular class, and that's a limited class. I also have one of them. And then they got the super late model, which races all over the country, but pretty much the same exact rules. And that's open cubic inches on the motor, 1 4-barrel carburetor, and 2,300 pounds any shocks. This car's got an air shock on the left rear and got all adjustable stuff. Like the one shock corner costs about $1,000 each, just for the shocks on that car out there. And that complete car new is somewhere around the 100,000 range. So that's why I brought it up here late and kept it covered up.
Yeah, so we can see it from here.
Yeah.
So, and all those stickers on there help pay for that car.
Yeah, pay for that car.
Yeah.
But lately, in the last 3 or 4 years, we've got really into safety with these cars through the big organizations like World of Outlaws, Lucas Oil, and that y'all seen Lucas Oil's about on everything on racing on TV. And with NASCAR coming in with all the safety items, this car out here has got the seat is $2,195. It's SFI approved. It can be hit at 300 miles an hour, some ungodly amount of force, and 3 times before it's got all the cushion stuff to save me. We got Hans and Hybrid Pros that goes around our neck and hooks to our helmet, so we get hit, it stops our neck from moving. That's what happened to Dale Earnhardt Sr., is he didn't have this apparatus in his neck. Then that happened to Neil Bonnet also, when he got killed in Atlanta. But we got fire systems. It's got a 10-pound Halon fire system on this thing that's automatic. If it catches on fire, it blows automatic. I don't have to do anything. And it's also got a manual button that if I'm knocked out or something, that they can run up and hit the button and make it go off manual also. So that's some of the big safety items that's been put into play to help us stay safe in the cars, running we up to 160 mile an hour at some tracks. And then some nights it's Senoia, some of our best racing's at 80 mile an hour when it's super slick. So speed ain't racing. And that's what we've argued with a lot of people a lot of times, is how fast you go ain't racing. It's being faster than everybody else that's out there racing. That's so hard for the Facebook people to understand. They remember the first year we changed it to this clay, the track slowed down a lot. We were running 1750s instead of staying at 1450s all night. But the racing was so much better, racing 3 and 4 wide. It don't matter where you start, you can still win if you got a fast race car. So we had a guy that won a B main last week, started 18th and 19th, run 3rd and 50 laps. So a couple of cautions, he might have won it. So that was shows how good the racetrack is. That's why people are talking about it's the best race they've ever seen was Saturday night. Yes, ma'am.
You had said earlier that you built your first race car at age 12 or 15. What did you say?
I could build a race car at 12 years old.
Wow.
That was pretty cool. Every part of it I could put together.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How do you do the qualifying, and then how does that affect the starting position?
When you qualify these cars, they do it 2 different ways over here because of the curfew. One way is we go out in hot lap, you get about 3 or 4 laps, usually green, white, checkered. You come in, you get ready to qualify, you come back in. Now that they've got transponders now, all these cars got transponders, the racers, every time you go by, y'all can even look on your phone on Race Monitor.
You can get that out called Race Monitor.
Race Monitor, and you can be sitting at home and see when I cross the flag stand every time. So it's pretty cool. But then you go out and qualify usually 2 to 3 cars at a time. And that sets the starting grid fastest on the inside. He gets to choose whether he wants the inside or outside, and then it just lines up from there on back. The other way to do it on nights it's going to be tight, rain's coming in, or there's extra class, or something, a special event. Then when you go out to hot lap, usually you do 6 cars at a time, and that is your qualifying and hot laps at the same time. And what that basically does is get the slower cars behind the faster cars, so it causes less accidents. You don't want to
move the show along too.
Move the show along, so that cuts out the whole qualifying part of the night, which is the most boring thing to fans there are.
All the time.
That's just go to concession time.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The pit crews use the colored stick lights, is that, they signal how far the nearest car is behind them?
I don't use the lights.
Some crews do, I know.
Some crews do, and that's usually for the younger drivers.
Okay.
When I come in, I say, Andy, why did you scratch your ear on lap 12? Because I'm that aware of what's going on around, because I've been doing it so long. But these stands usually coming off of the corner where your spotters are, because that's your least time that you got something going on. When you get into a corner, you're at your top speed of the racetrack, getting into a corner. So you're doing everything you do to hit your line and marks.
Right.
When you get it turned and slow down and start leaving, well, that's your slowest part of the corner. That's when you leave in the corner, and that's when you got the most time to look around. So I got my guy off the corner on the bottom of the racetrack, and you're always looking to the left in these cars. And I just glance at him with my eyes and keep on going. And he tells me how much room I got, whether I need to run the top or the bottom or run across the middle. And if I need to go top bottom, he just crosses it across his chest. So sometimes you enter high and cut low. And then this is like, got a quarter straight away, I'm okay. So that's the sign I want to see.
Amazing. It helps safe driving too. I've been racing over 40 years, mostly road racing, but you learn to be a better street driver. Driving a race car,
sure.
no question about it.
At one time, I get right to you. At one time, when I got my license at 16, if you drove a race car, you actually got a 10% reduction at that time down here. So that was pretty cool. If you done any kind of automobile racing,
So you're aware of the conditions and,
because they give you defensive driving course. Same thing. Go ahead.
How do you get your sponsors? Do you go after them, or do they come to you? And do they pay for very much part of the car getting put together?
It comes both ways, and they are both hard to get.
Are they?
Yeah.
It usually comes, and this is a catch-22 on everybody that's getting sponsors. If you win, you can get sponsors. If you're not, you can't. Well, how can you win without sponsors?
Yeah.
So it's a hard thing to do. They want to be on the winning car. Well, it's hard to get a sponsor to get you to a winning car. So that's the really hard thing. But like the Clyburn tank lines on my car, that's the biggest tank line in Mississippi. That's on my car, and he's bought my diesel fuel for years. And I got a card, and I go right diesel pump, fill up the fuel every time I need it, which come in really handy on the road racing. Funny story with him about when I come off the road racing in 15, about July, he called me, he said, hey, is the fuel card not working? What's going on? Also, I filled up at the first of the year, and I ain't going but a mile, so, so it was pretty neat. So it's, he wanted to call and see what was going on, but he's been good to me, and I got Sharpsburg Takeout. It's a great place that delivers to Senoia, and it's right there in Sharpsburg across from the bank. And they deliver pizzas and wings or whatever you need, and they look after me, and that's on the front of my car. And the Southern Fiber Net was originally coming to Senoia, but they didn't ever do it. But they've been around, and they own the 10th floor to downtown Atlanta. He's a partner of mine, and he's on the car. And then the great guy up at Napa is Keith White, owns 5 Napa locations, and he looks after me on cost on parts and stuff like that for my racing stuff. So
He's a
been
big
good
supporter
for
of
us.
the racetrack also.
Yeah.
Very
He
good.
comes by every Saturday night when he's not at the drag racer or something. So yeah, he's real instrumental in my car. And then Senoia Raceway, of course, we work with them back and forth on about anything. And most of everything else is pretty much product sponsors like Kaiser Manufacturing, Integra Shocks. I'm pretty much getting most everything you see on that thing give to me. So if I bid another car, it probably cost me the $100,000. This one got me about $50,000, so I'm about half price on what a normal one would cost. So I've got a motor deal with Race Tech. He freshens my motors for parts only. So instead of paying about $5,800, I pay about $3,800 for the parts and stuff. So several of them save you money if you're spending money. So it's kind of like a lot of things.
Sure.
Go
How
ahead.
do they come up with the prize money? Where does that come from? Is it from
That's
the people
from-
coming in and then or from the sponsors also?
Bill can answer that. He sometimes gets a sponsor for like part of the race if you want to put your name on a race, and then the rest of it comes actually from the grandstand, comes out of the pocket. If there ain't enough people, it comes out of his pocket. But you got to pay a prize. You got to have a prize money big enough to get the car count they have over here. So you got to pay. You got some racetracks. If you ever cut a purse or don't pay, then you pretty much just hung your padlock on the door. So he's got to suck it up on a night the crowd's bad or car count's bad, because the next week he's got to try to make it up. So
We also sell billboards that are around the racetrack. You can see here's a car go around there. They're 8 by 16,
What do those cost?
3,000 years. But that also gives you several season passes and actual use to the VIP booth upstairs if you want to bring some customers over to entertain them.
I'm sorry. How often do you shift during a race?
never straight drive.
It's straight drive?
Yeah, it's got what they call a bird or a Brin or a Falcon transmission. That's the 3 companies that make it. And what it is your clutch pedal, like I was telling her, your clutch pedal makes you move. You don't let off to go. So I put it in low gear and I mash the clutch to take off. You're supplying the pressure plate part of that. And you get it rolling. When you get up to a speed, you time shift into a dog teeth. And now you're locked in and you ain't touching anything. And you straight drive. And if you go to spinning out of something, you got to think ahead and bump that thing out of gear so it won't choke down.
Yeah.
If not, you hung up on the racetrack and you got to get them to rock you so you can get it out of gear. So it's kind of you learn how about a race to know how to get it out of gear and hurt.
Well, you know, Clint, that you're speaking another language.
I was just gonna say.
What language is it?
What's the cost on like the transmission and the rear?
Transmission runs about $2,800. Brin's about the same thing, about $3,000.
Do you change the gears in that very much?
We do have a quick change rear end. You take 6 bolts out of a cover, 2 spur gears, you change them any size you can make. Like the general street car's got a 273 ratio gear in a street car. We run about a 600 gear over here, where when you turn 8,000 RPMs, you turn about 2,500 running 70 mile an hour on the street. we turned $8,000 or 8,200 or something. So we changed the gears to keep that RPM consistent with whatever size track or what condition track we own. And it takes about 3 minutes to change the gear, so they get after it pretty quick with the impact.
I got one for Bill.
Yes, sir.
I was talking to a racetrack owner in upstate New York, and one night, and I said to him, "What's the most expensive seat in the house?" He said, "An empty one."
No doubt,
Yeah.
no doubt. Yes, sir.
Bill, you had mentioned a few races ago about a 6-hour race coming up at the.
It's coming up October the 6th. It's
Tell
going
us
to be
something
a
about
6-hour endurance race.
Yeah.
That's mainly going to be like street cars with the glasses knocked out, and people's got to have a helmet and seat belts. And you
No
can
roll
have,
bars?
no,
No roll bars?
Wow.
you can also have a couple drivers to fill in if you want to.
Okay.
But it's
You
not
must have,
demolition.
you must have 3 drivers, and each driver must run at least 1 lap.
Right.
What's the reason for the AM/FM radio? I don't understand. Is it gonna be over the air?
Probably, that's probably gonna communicate with the drivers.
Right.
Oh, I see.
Through a low
Okay.
frequency
But it pays
radio.
10,000 to win.
It's 10,000 to win. Yeah, wow.
How many are signed up already?
I'd have to check with
30.
my son.
Really?
You already checked on
I
that.
was talking about getting one a day.
Is there any limit?
100.
Oh, they'll start 100 cars?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go.
But now remember, it's not a demolition derby.
No, it's not, it's a race.
Endurance.
It's an endurance.
Endurance.
Keep
So
it
whoever wins that thing's gonna get 10 grand, winner take all.
Wow. That's something, that's neat. That's really,
I couldn't go 6 hours.
well, you switch off, you got 3 drivers.
I was just curious, are most of the engines in the kind of car you race, like this one out here, are they all the same brand or are they just limited by the cubic inch?
There's several motor builders. There's, I can name all of them, but there's a bunch of them. I can't name all of them. There's probably hundreds.
Well, I mean, are they like Chevy, Ford, whatever?
Chevy, Ford, you got Chevy, Ford is the main 2. The main one is still Chevrolet because you still can buy anything for Chevrolet. But Ford wins probably most of the big races. But they're 45 grand or something now.
Those Andy Durhams are about
Yeah.
60.
They're up to 60 now, so it's getting crazy. But
Scott Lundquist came here several weeks ago and won with an Andy Durham motor. And he's another guy that Clint knows real well, races all over the country. He had an Andy Durham Ford motor and he started 9th and won the feature and it had a $60,000 motor.
Wow.
One more comment if I could. You raced a long time. Did you, I know that Jeff Gordon used to run those kind back up in Indiana and everything like that. Did you ever race against him?
I was Jeff Gordon's car owner for 4 years.
There you go.
He run they used to have what they call a Prelude to the Dream, which is now the truck race they have up at Eldora. And I was, started off, Kenny Schrader drove one of my cars.
Okay.
And then the next year we got going on, Jeff Gordon started driving it. And he drove it for 4 straight years, 3, because he got wrecked at Watkins Glen, you was talking about a while ago.
Yeah,
and hurt his back and couldn't get in it that year. We had Dave Maney gonna drive it. And his aunt died, so it turned into being a backup car that year. And then we spent the last 2 years with Eric Amarola running it.
Oh, wow.
So we've got all the door panels hanging in the shop. But that was pretty cool to race with them guys. And the only one I ever actually raced with is Eric Amarola, because he rented one of my cars one night and drove it. And my buddy's a Cruz Petrogon top fuel racer, and he's talking about coming to Senoia this year and gonna run probably a crate car of
Who's that?
mine. Cruz Petrogon
Oh, yeah.
runs top fuel funny cars. And he's gonna come to Senoia probably before the year's out on one of his off weekends and drive. I hadn't told Bill about that.
Surprise.
And may have Ron Capps with him, so we may get both of them. Match race.
Interesting. Exciting stuff.
All right.
Go.
Thank you guys again. Hopefully you can come up. Thank you.
So much, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was great. So, great little piece of history. I did have one more question. How many dirt tracks in the nation? Are there a bunch?
Oh, gosh.
How many have the KO, the same kind of clay track you all have? You the only one?
This is, he says gumbo, his is actually a straight 85% pure clay out of clay mine. Gumbo is actually out of a Mississippi riverbed. And there's a couple of them in Mississippi, in Magnolia, Mississippi's got one in Columbus.
Okay, so there's a few others around.
There's a few other great plays like that. Then there's a lot of red clay tracks that's got into a good clay vein that's around up north, and usually where they come from, they're also a dark color, like they ain't as black as Senoia is, but they get dark and black. Like Iowa's got black dirt, up in Iowa's all black. But it's dust, so you gotta be careful.
It's where you're located.
This is actually the only racetrack with this blue clay. It's called. It's not gray. It's called blue clay. And it's actually from, the story about it, they're looking for the 97% pure clay, which is a white tan color. And this stuff is the vein above it. And they gotta move this to get use of it they don't use. Then you get after that other stuff, if it rained, we wouldn't get to race. But it's like a sponge, it just soaks up water when it rains.
Thank you so much. We all go next month.
Yeah, thanks. I don't typically play
I
here.
believe Hallberg's next month, right? Yes. So next month we have a storyteller that's going to play Mr. Hallberg. Based on right here. This is Mr. Hallberg. There you go. It'll be an interview back from the 70s, I believe. When we talking about the history of the railroad. Hope to see you all in. Still some refreshments.
From the older days.
Is anyone? Here we go. Okay. Yes, sir.
Take the blood, huh?
I try not to complain so much when they go.
We had when we lived in Well,
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. This is awesome. And we will take you up on the fundraising thing. I think for both of us, it's a whole different demographic that we do together. We'll make sure we'll leave them out here in the museum too.
Thank you.
Folks come.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Try to do it. My pleasure.
Thank you, no, thank you.
SAHS May
Oh, that makes it all worse.
Is he another one? Yeah, 6, 7.
Literally, my mother went to yeah. The same road. I think she really came down. Never coming back.
We cleaned it up a little bit.
That was really a great talk. Very, very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
She actually noticed it. I wish I could get an answer to it. Yeah, she did. At least she sounded like when she had her talking to me too. But she said she had been monitoring. She was trying to gauge if she could stay. Yeah. Looked like they were
They don't get to sing it. So Rand's going to be a race car driver then. It's a new career. You'll be the sponsor.
Did you see the medal or just?
I'll sponsor you.
Monitoring was gonna make it to the car with all these things waiting on me, right?
That's great. When we get about halfway through the board thing.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about each meeting, but we're starting to get halfway done.
Yeah, because
Perfect.
I would love to. I was hoping she would be able to stay because Brandon was talking to them after we heard about what all those things represented, you know? Yeah. I would love to have it. I'd love to hear her story about it.
I need to stick. My girls are all eligible for DA.
Really?
Yeah, Evan's dad was adopted and we didn't know who his birth father was until a year ago. And now we know, and he makes the girls eligible.
Well, when we met with them about the project one night, they were talking about how anxious they are for the, now I don't know where you're from, but they were saying even for the noon chapter, they were very anxious to try to find their younger members because, you know, yeah.
I can't make it. I'm a question. I like to no, not even close.
Yeah.
Big fridge? No. But Evan's, yeah, see, it's really good. That's adopted name. It's great.
Man, there's fire coming out of the back of that.
Are you
guys around? Are you saying?
Yes, I'll send you. If you promise some of this.
You know, if you're on Facebook,
Yeah,
you know Alan Ricky Conlon?
Yeah.
He's the guy that plays Ray Brown around 10
Oh, yes, and Liz probably.
And Nikki works at the Georgia Mercantile. They both traced that far back.
That's a really good
And she said they didn't, every time they come from the
That's
same
a
tree.
really good one.
Different levels.
It's scary.
And eventually you have to, I guess.
Yeah, we all do eventually.
Right.
We were sitting at our kitchen table, good friends of ours, and one of our friends is a genealogist, and I've done ours, and
I think I
And
just.
some other
we all just
stories.
use our
Very
DNA
nicely there.
So you can put your DNA kit in.
That's a good shot.
With another DNA kit.
Put up a Facebook post and
Alan
then
started
one up
talking
at the meeting,
about,
and then one
he's got
meeting with the
ancestors
grant.
on this,
Nice.
on the list in.
And the one with the meeting will be when I put the
And
video
John
up.
goes, thanks, your relatives
Yeah.
on that list.
It is.
And, but you have to send me one of the cards.
Really?
Yeah, so then they put their numbers in there, yeah, they're related. So then we're like, wow,
Up in the moment.
let's do, and these are, you know,
Then I'll be
two of
later,
our
they
best
go like,
friends.
that was.
So then Evan goes, well, maybe Leslie and I should check, and then we're like, this is getting
Maybe we should not check anymore at all.
you know? It was okay for John and Evan to be related, but then it's
Yeah, right.
she crossed, now we don't know.
Wow.
Oh my God, you know, it's related, and then I was.
Oh, yeah, you gotta send me those.
Yeah.
Oh, what, yeah, absolutely.
And it's a founding family in that area.
No kidding.
Yeah, you just never know. But yeah, I'm on a lot of genealogy essays, and there's people that can go back.
I think we need to go back though and talk to Clint about getting an actual physical.
And then eventually, it's
Right.
a smaller number of people.
Yeah.
It's small, but
Yeah.
it's interesting. Fascinating.
And we
I'm
can get something
related
too, we can get
to
a
first settlers
piece
of
of the old
Quebec.
dirt track and
First
some of the
Catholic
new ones,
nun,
and then
Helen,
it
first
talks
Catholic
about
priest. I'm
where it
related
came
to
from
that.
and everything. I think it's really cool.
And I didn't know that when I went to
And it's history and it's also
I
interesting.
got to go there for sure.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah,
for people
you wanna learn
who are
French
interested in the racing aspect.
No, but we've been to Quebec. There's that thunder again.
Driving that car?
Yes.
I thought you trailered it here.
I don't know, maybe.
Thank you. I think it's you. It is.
I'm gonna put some of this stuff up.